Welcome along, one and all, to round 5 of PSGL Season 39 PSF3, brought to you by GT Omega. 4 races, 4 winners, 4 pole setters, 9 podium finishers so far in the season. PSF3 is so extraordinarily competitive, and we arrive today for round 5 at a track that promotes intense competition, perhaps more than any other circuit on the game. It is the Red Bull Ring. The Austrian Grand Prix is what we will be treated to this evening. To take you through the action here tonight, it is your usual PSF3 lineup of myself, Daka, and alongside me, as always, is my good friend Ghost. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing well, doing well. What a circuit for racing this is. Like you said, Daka, you don't get more competitive races more consistently than on this circuit because you get such long DRS trains, but it's not like Qatar where it's hard to overtake in those trains. You can send it for a dive bomb at several corners on the circuit. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've seen overtakes at every single corner on this circuit, and I'm sure we'll see almost all of them seeing some action today as well, especially with the way this PSF3 grid has been so fearless so far this season of sending moves into certain corners. But Lars van der Linden is coming around the final corner to set a lap. It's a short lap, so you've got to nail every single corner or else it's lap over, Daka.
Uphill now, heading up towards turn 1, breaking down into 4th gear, taking all of that curve on the inside and keep the car stable on the exit. Now onto that overtake button, downhill then uphill, so many elevation changes at this circuit as well. Towards the braking zone at turn 3, 15.9 for the first sector, down the gears into 3rd, flicking it in, hard over the curve on the inside to straighten up the car on the exit as much as you can. You can hear the rear tyres squealing, but Lars van der Linden is on his way. DRS once again, downhill now towards turn 4, onto the brakes and down in the 3rd gear, aggressive on that entry. Could have taken more of the curb though on the inside. He's got to hold something back, but now it is high speed all the way to the end of the lap. 5th gear now, heading through at turn 6, very close to exceeding track limits, manages to keep it alive as he heads through 7 and 8, straightening up that car yet again, using pretty much the last of your battery reserves on the run towards these incredibly high speed last couple of corners. Turn 9, the rear threatens to step away on the entry, then into turn 10, over the curbs again on the inside and outside. Lars van der Linden completes that lap, a 1:03.6, gets that session kicked off. His Indian Hajar's championship leader just behind. You're going to see times coming in constantly. Sam van Marising, who had a great drive last time out in China, goes fastest, 1:03.3. The times, of course, are going to be very close around this track. Incredibly short track, but Sam van Marising kicking off where he left off somewhat from China. He had a great showing, but AGK Racing, as always, in qualifying, storms at the top of the timesheets. A 1:03.1 already. These lap times are going to be so impressive here.
These are already incredible lap times. Nearly all of them in the 1-minute threes. Actually, all of them at the moment. And then AGK threatening the 1-minute twos. I wouldn't be surprised to see one, although it is tough to improve at this circuit because there's so few corners, there's so few places to improve if you already have a good lap. Like I said, all it takes is one small mistake and you lose the whole lap because there's no time to make that time back up over the rest of the circuit. So yeah, all the times are going to be very close. Yeah, I think a 10th around here is more like, you know, somewhere like Belgium, it would be 2, maybe 3 tenths. So a 10th is a big margin, and AGK currently 1.5 tenths clear. But that's a very impressive lap from Sam van Marising as well. OVR NASCAR heading into the pits after bailing on his second attempt. But yeah, very impressive from those top drivers so far. Interestingly, well, OVR Nico is here, but there's no Mattia Manga. Oh no, he is here. Never mind. I completely missed him. Yeah, we do have all of the top 4 in the championship, all the top 5, in fact. So that is great to see, given how close things are.
Yes, indeed. Of course, in the last round in China, we saw Zinedine Hajjaj's championship lead be threatened as a bot strategy call put into the back of the field, and it looked for a while as if OVR Nico was going to take that championship lead away. Sadly, though, he had to leave the race in the middle of the race due to personal reasons, and Zinedine Hajjaj actually had a storming drive back to the field to P3 and actually preserved and greatly extended that championship lead to 11 points. Still very tight and competitive. But yeah, Mattia Manga with what was really a crushingly dominant drive, and you don't see many of those on this game, and especially not in this league. He won by a margin of nearly 7 seconds. Mixed conditions obviously helped creating some separation, but he was absolutely on it last time out in China. For the second half of that race, never looked like he'd be troubled.
Yeah, absolutely. The only one who looked like they could trouble him was OVR Nico, but yeah, it was a shame. I hope everything's all right with him, but it's good to see him back on circuit today. Although he is all the way down in 9th, which is surprising on those first runs. So we'll see if he can improve on that. But Mattia Manga coming through on his outlap to start his first attempt at getting a time on the board. You can wait a bit longer at this circuit. It's such a short circuit, so you know, you can afford to waste some time in the pits and still get 3 laps out, unlike somewhere like Belgium. But Mattia Manga now using that ERS down towards turn 1 and getting on the throttle as soon as he dares on the exit, getting as much of the curb as possible as well, down towards turn 3. We'll see plenty of overtakes here in the race.
We will indeed. This is perhaps that primary overtaking spot, but if you look at the track, from the exit of turn 10 to pretty much the entry to turn 4 is practically an entire continuous DRS zone in itself. That's really the action point of the circuit, and as a whole, that's why races tend to be so competitive around here. That's half the lap pretty much where you will see effectively relentless wheel-to-wheel racing. That is what's to come later on. Mattia Manga, though, still continuing, runs onto the gravel, heading out of turn 6 somehow. That didn't invalidate, but this lap, the run through turn 1 wasn't exactly optimal. I don't know if the sector times are setting the world alight here for NLR Mattia Manga, but he's recovering well. Used all that battery. Oh, he takes a huge bite out of the curb at turn 10, and that will be that. So Mattia Manga, couple of runs, no real success to find. Of course, you do get plenty of opportunities here at Austria, but you won't want many more of those.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of invalidations as well. Zinedine Hajjaj is one of them. Championship leader and Sam van Marating both invalidating their runs. But yeah, it's tough around this circuit. It's really, really tough to get a perfect lap in. It's weird because it's such a short circuit with so few corners, but it just means that the whole grid is so much more competitive because as soon as you make a mistake, then anyone who hasn't made a mistake is immediately above you because there's no time to make up that mistake. But there are some improved laps coming in. Sieb and Matisse coming through. NASCAR goes to P3. Great lap from the Alpine driver in front of Zinedine Hajjaj there, who is improving. He's gone for a second run on those tyres, but only by 14 thousandths of a second through Sector 1. We'll see who else can improve. Mattia Manga into the pits he goes. Obviously, that invalidation at the last corner also put paid to his next lap. But Zinedine Hajjaj not improving through Sector 2. He's lost that time again. And it just goes to show, if you get a good lap around here, it is so hard to find the time to improve and an invalidation as he desperately tries to push for more time. And he will remain in P4 for now.
Yeah, so tough around this track to hook it all up, as it tends to be, but yeah, you find generally the opportunities to gain time. Again, it's a double-edged sword. The opportunities to gain time when you already have a good lap in, very, very few and far between. So AGK already having that lap on the board early is something that's puts him in a powerful position, but also he's going to find it hard to improve in the remaining runs. But yeah, it's so fascinating. We are now heading into the second half of the session as we have a bit of downtime on the track, and a lot of the drivers kind of debriefing from their efforts down in the pit lane. PLX is on a good lap. He had an incredible pole position lap in China. Of course, the race did not go his way, but he's now headed around very, very low on fuel, so I wonder if he's going to continue this one. Flies around turn 9, now into turn 10, nails that entry point. Could have taken a little bit more speed, I do believe, but he comes through anyway and goes into position number 6 on a 103.411. So that's solid, but I think generally, other than some of the drivers who didn't get runs in earlier, we haven't seen that many improvements. So I think that goes perfectly in line with your point. These guys, once they have that lap time down, it's hard to cut it down even further.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, PLX there, he'll be disappointed with that lap, I think, because he could easily have been 4th or even 3rd from there. But those last couple corners, I think he just took a bit too much out of them, especially the penultimate corner, I think. Or, no, it was the last corner where he lost the rears massively as he went through it. So, and lost about half a tenth, which doesn't sound like much. But when you look at the times on the board, that is an awful lot of time to lose around this circuit. So PLX will be a little disappointed to be down in 6th. But one driver who massively improved was OVR Nico. That's what he needed, a huge lap from the man in P3 in the championship. Getting himself ahead of Zinedine Hadjaj is always going to be his main goal.
It is, and it's potential even cars can go between that gap, even though it's only so small. And you've almost seen just that. Spyros goes ahead of the pair of them, but he goes on to a 103.3, which is where a lot of the drivers are now sitting in terms of lap time. So Spyros putting himself right in the mix, of course. Also had a great qualifying session last time out in China. 3rd on the grid on that occasion, 4th on the grid so far in this session. We'll see how that evolves into the future. So we are inside the final 7 minutes and the time is continuing to tick down. We are going to get a flurry of lap times to come in very, very soon. Ilar Mateo Manga is finding a couple of tenths of a second on that last run that fell away in his last couple of corners. Is it valid this time? He does manage to control the car all the way through, but the tyre's almost threatening to get away. It's only a 103.5 though, again less than 4 tenths off of the provisional pole time, but that's only good for P12 at the moment. And of course, a little bit better execution, that is rocketing up the grid. But right now Mattia Manga is going to have a very pressure filled into the session, with a lot of his championship rivals much better off at the moment.
Less than 4 tenths off pole and 13th place is unreal, but that is the nature of this circuit. Sam van Marising was trying to improve, but he spun it on the exit of turn 4. And obviously lost that lap time. He was lucky not to go into the wall. He's able to go again as a result, as he hurtles down towards turn 1 and throws the car through that curb. As IRT Sieb goes to P3. Massive lap from the Williams driver who took a shock win
AGK.
2 weeks ago. AGK racing to the line. A 103.0 is well out of reach of the rest of this grid, I think. And I think that is going to secure pole position. It's not quite the 1 minute 2s, but it's close enough. And I really doubt anyone else has got the pace to compete with that. So pole is almost certainly wrapped up. It's all about those other positions. I mean, you just look at this. The gap between 1st and 2nd is nearly a tenth bigger than the gap between 2nd and 16th.
Oh, that is just astonishing. My, oh my. I mean, we know this Romanian driver who is absolutely infernal over one lap, and he's proven that again and again. And that might be the lap of the lot, because, yeah, 3 tenths of a second round this track is extraordinary. Can anyone get anywhere near to that mark? We're inside the final 5 minutes of the session. A lot of drivers are out there, not as many finding improvements. I think PLX has just come out of that first sector, so we'll see how the Frenchman can get on. The F4 champion, the pole sitter in the last round at the Chinese Grand Prix, needs a big lap though, currently sat down in 9th place, rotating that car in a turn 4, but understeers in 4th gear. We see most drivers using 3rd there, and just massively misjudged, it has to be said, the entry to the corner. So this lap will be no good as he throws the car around turn 6. So that will do it for PLX in this run. He needs a very big lap to come later on. Again, he's only less than a tenth of a second away from P2, so that execution, if it comes through, can certainly be very beneficial. But at the moment, it's currently down in 9th place. So many drivers have a lot of pressure for this last run.
Zinedine Hajjaj is one of them. He's coming to the last couple corners, the only driver on a competitive lap right now. One more corner to go. It's a huge slide of the rear as he goes all the way through. But is it going to be an improvement for Zinedine Hajjaj? Oh, it is, and it's enough to get him to the front row. Less than a 10th improvement, but he jumps up 5 positions. So a massive lap from the championship leader. Can anyone respond, especially the likes of Nico, PLX, and Mattia Manga, who's sitting down in last place right now, the man in P2 in this championship, and that is a devastating mistake from Nico. Invalidates at the final corner on his outlap, really, and that is going to put paid. Oh, that was a flying lap, but, well, it put paid to another attempt anyway, and he's going to have to book it to the pit lane. I think it's going to be very, very close, Stacker, whether he has enough time to go out again. I think he will. I think he'll be have about 10 seconds to spare or so, but it's going to be really close, and he won't have wanted to push it this close.
And he's actually just run out of fuel on this inlet.
Dear.
So that's, I hope he can manage to get it back. He might still have the time, but it's going to be even closer now. His time would have been good enough for P2. It was a 103.25, so it would have been about half a tenth clear of Zinedine. But yeah, that last corner invalidation, gutting, absolutely gutting, and I think he's up against it in terms of getting another lap time in, so that could be an incredibly costly mistake from the Belgian. Everyone else now getting their final run plans kicked off then, as I think OVR Martis is the furthest driver around. So 2 minutes to go in the session. We are going to get relentless action here in Austria. 63 seconds of the Red Bull Ring for all of these drivers is about to get kicked off. Ghost, what on earth does the end of this qualifying session provide for us?
Oh, goodness me. I think it's going to provide fireworks. 1 minute 50 to go. I'm keeping a side eye on Nico as well to see if he makes it, but it is going to be mighty close for him as Matisse not improving through Sector 1, already 2 tenths down, so he's going to have to try again in that Aston Martin. Mattia Manga's invalidated, so he'll have to go again as well. Felix 1 also invalidating. Gippo is on a lap. Is he improving through Sector 1? Only slightly. PLX coming to the end of Sector 1 as well, also improving, but they need more time through the second 2 sectors. Of course, Sector 1 is essentially just one corner, so it's all about the rest of the circuit, although Turn 1 is a very, very difficult corner to get right, as they all head through the middle sector. I'm seeing a lot of red track maps on the bottom right as I flick through the grid, but there's still plenty who are on valid lap times. PLX is one of them. He's coming to the end of Sector 2. What can he do? He's not actually going for it, so he's backed off of that one. He's going to go again as well. It's going to be a Hail Mary for everyone here. Nico's just come out the pit lane. I think he's out of time. I think he's going to be about 5 seconds short of the line, which is devastating for him. ASRT Gippo to P2. Massive lap from the Haas driver, beating out his teammate. Could be the first time he outqualifies Zinedine Hajjaj this season. Zinedine is on an outlap though, so he is going to get one more attempt at this. AGK's invalidated. No improvement for him, but I don't think he needs to.
I would certainly bet on that, but yeah, Geppo, after what was an incredibly entertaining drive. Oh, Sam Van Marsing, what a lap, goes to P2. Maybe the pole position isn't quite out the woods, but for Sam Van Marsing, that's a brilliant lap too, getting himself well clear of the rest of the field, besides the qualifying maestro AGK Racing. So lap times are coming in, and they're coming in well. So who is going to step up to the plate? And next up, Nico's gone off. He's not going to be able to find any more time out there. Couldn't get round to start that last lap. So next up, we're looking at Vessel in the McLaren. Gets a really clean run around that final corner up to the line and goes into position number 6. So does find some time out there on the track. Sieb in front, can't find any more, stays in position number 5 behind that. Mattia Manga is a disastrous qualifying session as he runs wide at the final corner once again. So the Red Bull driver will be relegated to the back of the field. Is there anyone else that can try and step it up? There is Zinedine Hajjaj, set a 103.1 as NASCAR improves again, goes up into position number 3. Brilliant lap 2. Lars van der Linden was the last car over the line, decides to pull into the pit lane. Zinedine's time would have been good enough for, I think, at least 3rd on the grid, but invalid in the end. AGK, a dominant pole position, lots of great late runs, and I would imagine lots of heartbreaks, lots of frustrations for the drivers out there. One man was dominant, but the rest of the field was all over the place there.
Yeah, and the race is going to be so close with all these times so close together, and I think we're going to have, well, unless we have incidents and collisions, I think we could well have a 16-car DRS train for the vast majority, at least of the first stint. But yeah, what a lap from AGK Racing, nearly into the 1 minute 2s. Sam Van Marising very impressive on the front row. NASCAR P3, and Gippo outqualifies his championship leading teammate for the first time this season. But stories up and down the grid. Mattia Manga, I think, though, is the biggest one. Last place on the grid. That is a real shock, Daka.
And he just couldn't get a clean run together at any point throughout that session. And for a driver who's just coming off the back of an incredible drive in China, where he was the absolute class of the field, that's really rather shocking. And yeah, so a lot of work to be done. Of course, it is a track where overtaking is on the easier side. Especially if it does turn out to be a dry race. We'll talk more on that later, but yes, so much work to do for NLR Mattia Manga. AJK Racing, though, up at the front. I'll just run you through the grid. It's Sam Van Marising, and then, well, Haas are already leading the constructors then after a great point scoring haul last time out in China, but Geppo and Zinedine Hajjaj owning that second row. And, oh, sorry, my apologies, I'm looking further down. NASCAR, of course, managed to jump up into P3 later on in the session, my apologies. But that's a great late lap, too, from FRT NASCAR, a driver who's been out of the points so far this season, has a great opportunity now here to do just that in round 5 here. But then it's Geppo and Zinedine, then it's IRT and Vessel in 6th and 7th. The rest of the 4th row made up by Spyros. Then the top 10 is rounded up by Nico and Mathiosho had a relatively quiet qualifying session. That's two outside championship contenders down at the end of the top 10. PLX as well and P11. So yeah, a lot of drivers seemingly somewhat out of possession. Ruben, Matisse, Lars van der Linden, Felix 1 and then Mattia Manga round out the grid. And hey, one thing to take from that, you have the drivers in 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th in the standings really having, by their own standards, pretty disastrous qualifying sessions there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really going to be quite important around this circuit. They've got to make some moves. They can't afford to sit back and just sit in the DRS train and towards the front, because they won't make any progress doing that, because the DRS train is going to be so long anyway. So it puts the pressure on. It's far from impossible at this circuit, obviously, with everyone so close together. But you know, being in the midfield makes incidents more likely. It piles the pressure on you to get further up the grid, and yeah. It's not a good position to be in. I'd much rather be at the front at this circuit. Well, I'm on any circuit, but especially this one, really. But yeah, Mattia Manga in particular is in a lot of trouble at the back of the grid. Although, you know, it will mean he can avoid anything that happens. If we do get some carnage into turn 3, which I've seen plenty of times at this circuit, not in PSGL, but in other leagues for sure. So, and with how aggressive the grid is in PSF3 this season, I wouldn't bet against it. So Mattia Manga will have a great view, and he could be able to avoid it all if he's smart about it. But yeah, he won't be happy to be in last place, especially off the back of that wonderful drive last week. But yeah, Zinedine Hajjaj, I think, will be relatively satisfied where he is, and Nico is going to be another one who'll be disappointed. So yeah, some interesting stories in prospect here, especially those drivers who are lower down than we're used to seeing them.
Yes, indeed. We're going to have to keep a very close eye on those drivers. Of course, big opportunities for some drivers who haven't had those opportunities throughout this season. I think the biggest example is, of course, OER NASCAR with that brilliant late lap to P3. Seems to really like this track. Of course, if you gel around this track, all it takes is to be about a tenth or two quicker than usual, and you're all of a sudden right up there fighting with the upper elites in this tier. So we're seeing a lot of changes to the pecking order here at Austria. That's what we love. This track, it always brings just that. Well, we have a bit of downtime just between qualifying and the race. Quick word for our sponsor, GT Omega. A link to their site, as always, is down in the video description. And if you want to purchase anything from that site, you can use the code PSGL at checkout for a 5% discount on all GT Omega products. Well, let's look forward to the race, because as we've mentioned several times already throughout this event up to this point, we have, well, just one of the most raceable tracks on the game, a tier that loves to absolutely just go at it, go to racing, go to war out there on the circuit. I know it's not a conversation we'd like to have, but how much value is there for drivers that can potentially stay out of trouble in a race like this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much potential at this circuit for some, certainly some drama-filled moments, I will say, but also some amazing racing. I've seen plenty of race around here where you've had 4, 5, 6 or more cars all scrapping it out for the win in the last few laps. And if we get some changeable weather, as we're no stranger to this season in PSF3, then that's going to spice things up even more, especially if someone goes for a wild strategy. And yeah, there's so much potential at this circuit. I'm really looking forward to this, particularly with those sort of a bit of a displaced grid, I would say, than what we're used to.
Yeah, of course, as we mentioned, with the drivers in the top 5 in the standings having poor qualifying sessions and wanting to make it up in the Grand Prix later on. So we'll get straight to that in a second. We'll see about the conditions in just a moment as we load in towards the race session itself. Oh my goodness! Continue to count him off. We have had so much rain already this season, and we're going to get yet another race in the wet here in Austria. Forget what we said about DRS trains. Oh my goodness. Wow, this grid really must be getting used to this, Ghost.
Oh yeah, we're back in the rain. I mean, the spectators seem very happy about it, even though they're getting drenched in the stands above the pit lane there. Yeah, it looks like inters to me. I don't think it's quite enough for wets, but who knows where the weather's going to go in this race. What a prospect we have here. This is fantastic. The grid is still going to be very close, but all that talk about a DRS train no longer really a threat, an outcome that can happen unless it dries up later, as obviously no DRS in these conditions. So it's all going to be about whether the drivers can stay close enough to each other on pure pace, and of course a little bit of slipstream as well on those long straights. But yeah, big problems here for AGK, I think, in particular, because he doesn't have the greatest history in these conditions.
Well, maybe in terms of mistakes, certainly that opening stint in Brazil, he was very impressive in terms of pace, so we'll see how that goes. Sam van Marsing had similarly a fairly torrid time in Brazil in the wet, but in China he was excellent in the wet. So we'll see how this tends to, of course it will shake up the pecking order in terms of who takes to these conditions well, but we'll see how it's going to go down as the Austrian Grand Prix is about to get underway. We have 5 lights! And the Austrian Grand Prix is go, with AGK leading them off the line and gets a strong getaway too. He converts that pole position easily. Down into the turn 1, the two Haas's are going side by side for 4th and 5th. Geppo squeezes it into Hajjaj off the road, and he's going to have pressure from Steven Vessel as the top 3 break away on the run up towards turn 3 now. And the championship leader's got pressure from all sides. Up towards the hairpin now, onto the brake pedal for each and every one of these 16 drivers as Sieb looks to the inside of Zinedine Hajjaj, can't find it, and actually gets done for traction on the outside by Vessel, and the McLaren moves up towards 6th position then as they head down towards turn 4. It's beginning to string out up at the front. Down at the back we've still got moves going on. PLX lunges, Mathieu, the Mercedes driver, forced 11 off. When did they come together? They drag each other off the circuit, and 2 championship contenders are off the road at turn number 4. They managed to recover it, but that's cost them dearly. Mathieu too with front wing damage on that Mercedes, so they're going to have to try and work the win and way back in, and Mateusz getting that handicap of the damage so early on as they navigate themselves through. Spyros has got a bit of a train behind him too, who hasn't quite been able to live with the drivers in front. Ruben behind is sliding out that Ferrari. They're almost nose to tail in that fight, but AGK Racing up at the front has checked out a storming first lap. Drama further back, fairly clean at the front with AGK leading Sam van Mersing, and NASCAR now pressuring the V car.
Yeah, it was a huge overtake from Nico on lap 1 as well to get past Spyros, because Spyros then lost a lot of time and started holding up drivers behind. Mattia Manga's made up 2 positions, but he'll have hoped for more than that. He's going to send it to the inside of turn 3 by the looks of it on Felix. He makes that move stick, but does he have the traction to keep it going on the run to 4? No, he doesn't. Felix gets that traction on the outside. There's the 2 cars battling in front, but I think Mattia Manga's going to have to back out of this one unless he sends it to the outside. He does! Late braking from the Red Bull driver. He tries to make his way further up this grid. He's got the traction on the outside this time. Felix is going to try and hold it, but Mattia Manga gets ahead by the looks of things. Can Felix go around the outside of turn 6? Surely not. No, he doesn't. Mattia Manga up to 13th and making some patient moves in that Red Bull, but there's a long way to go.
There is certainly an awful long way to go. He's up 3 positions, so too Lars van der Linden. They've had the biggest moves off of the start. The top 5 has remained in the same order. AGK is storming away. Look at this, as Sam van Mersing cannot quite live with him. A 1:13.3 on the last lap, fastest lap of the race, and now he's 1.5 seconds clear of Sam. NASCAR looks very pacey, very aggressive in that 3rd place. They pick up a good slipstream towards turn 3, so they're going to go side by side, and there's more action further back too. But NASCAR to the inside of turn 3, but outbraked by Sam van Mersing then, as Zinedine has to try and send off against Vessel, who moves to the inside of turn 3. Zinedine though gets strong traction on the exit. Vessel is squirming all the way, almost halfway down that straight towards turn number 4. Zinedine has managed to hold him off for the time being, and Seeb now to the inside of turn 4 on the McLaren. So the Williams tried to put a big move on then as they go side by side through the exit. Tough traction on the inside though for Seeb. He's managed to find some good purchase, gets up at the long side to the outside of turn number 6. Can he make it round the McLaren? Oh, he's half a car length almost behind. Eventually Vessel does manage to get through, hold on to that 6th position, but they're already racing hard back there in that midfield pack. But AGK, I said he was fast in Brazil, but this is a whole other level. 2.6 seconds clear, and well, we've seen him check out before in races and it's worked against him, but AGK at the moment fully in control.
Yeah, I think the only people who would bet against AGK at this point are people who have not been watching PSF3 for the last few months. So AGK, he looks pretty unstoppable at the moment, but we've seen so many times how things just turn against him as races go on. Mattia Manga, by the way, with another beautiful move on Matisse. He's now up to P12 as he continues to try and make his way further up the grid. Nico and Seeb side by side through turn 3. Seeb getting the purchase on the inside, but he can't quite get the traction on the exit. Nico into P7, and Vessel up next for the V-Carb driver, and then Zinedine Hajjaj, who, if we remember last week when it was raining, he was not the best in terms of pace. He was really struggling, was the championship leader. When it turned dry, he got an awful lot better, and he started to carve through other drivers. But if it stays wet, then Zinedine Hajjaj might have a tough race on his hands, as Vessel again is right behind him and looking for a move.
He is pressuring the championship leader at the moment. Zinedine Hajjaj, yeah, he did struggle in the early laps in China, and especially in those inter-slip conditions where he lost all that time. He now runs NP5, but they're so close, and Sam van Mersing, just like in Brazil, you'd have to say, is really holding these drivers back, and these guys are going to have to try and look for a way through. NASCAR has had good runs up towards turn 3 on the last couple of laps, but unable to at the moment, it seems, as Vessel again tries to attack Zinedine. Zinedine holding off that time as NASCAR looking towards the inside of turn 3, but he's not quite confident enough on the brakes. Vessel looks for another one to the inside of Zinedine Hajjaj, and again it's a battle for traction on the exit. The McLaren has significantly more battery, but he can't quite out traction him on the exit. Can he look for the entry to turn 4 though as they close up? Looks like he's going to have to cede that one for the time being as they all barrel into the middle section of the track as it stands. But yeah, Sam van Mersing really seems to be struggling at the moment in these conditions. He's held P2 very well, kept the mistakes to a minimum, but he's shipping at least round about a second a lap, give or take, to the race leading McLaren, as they're all getting oh so close behind, but seemingly he's not able to distance anyone as the field's still completely packed for P2 down.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, Mattia Manga will be happy to at least be with the pack. Obviously, no DRS to help him out, but he'll be pleased to be within 1 second of Lars van der Linden, because he wasn't for a while. As here comes Vettel again, looking to the inside of turn 1. Zinedine Hajjaj is really struggling. He is lower on ERS than everyone else around him, and he is really desperate to keep that position, but maybe he's going to go after his teammate here. No, he doesn't have the pace on the straight, and Gippo staying ahead, but here comes Nico on the inside of Vettel for turn 3, going for a move. The man in P3 in the championship who was who has had so many points taken away from him last week, as he now goes up into P6, but he's still on the inside. Can he keep this move from the outside of turn 4? He's got it done, I think. Vettel doesn't have the traction, I don't think, and Nico is a full car length ahead down towards turn 6. He'll be very, very pleased with that move. That's a great overtake from Nico, and next up is the championship leader, the struggling championship leader in the Haas, and I'm sure Nico will be smelling blood ahead.
Nico clearly likes these conditions, and Vettel, you'd have to feel for him. He was on the attack so many times, but ends up getting relegated down in the 7th. He's close up, he clearly has a lot of speed. He's right up behind Nico through these corners, but there's no overtaking opportunities. Now Sieb, who has a full battery to use, is right up behind him too. It's Geppo in 4th who's lost a bit of contact to the 2 cars in front on the last lap. Zinedine Hajjaj will try and apply that pressure. He gets a good exit off of turn number 1, and so the championship leader may try and take on his teammate. Of course, they lead the constructors together, but they are still going to battle towards turn number 3. Zinedine looks for a long way back, and at turn 3 there's a little bit of contact between him. Geppo is going to hold that one off around the outside. Zinedine Hajjaj showing a bit of impatience then, trying to lunge it on the brakes, not quite coming off in the end, and Nico will be trying to take full advantage too. Closing right up is behind Sieb, looking at Vettel, gets pinched onto the curb though at the inside of turn 1. Vettel though with a bit of oversteer on the exit keeps the Williams in play, and Sieb's got a great run towards turn 6. Can he sweep around the outside? Yes he can, and Vettel loses another possession. He looked so strong in the early laps, but right now it does not seem to be going his way. He has to settle down back into position number 8. Sieb managing to get through, clearly has a lot of speed himself in these conditions. So they continue on towards lap number 8. AGK leading the way. NASCAR still pressuring Sam van Mersing, but Sam van Mersing, just like he did in Brazil, doing an excellent job of seeing it off. He may not have great pace, but he's managing to drive very clean and hold these drivers behind as they continue to stack up. It is still the entire field pretty much in contact here.
Mattia Manga with it setting the fastest lap in his Red Bull. He's clearly got some pace out there, and he's just about adapted to these conditions now as he hunts after the 2. Kicks Albers in front of him. He goes for a move on the inside of turn 3 on Lars van der Linden. Surely doesn't have the traction on the exit. No, he doesn't. But Mattia Manga is out for blood at the moment. He's looking very, very quick and very feisty as Nico is charging after the 2 Hasses who oh no, he's going on the inside of his Zinedine Hajjaj. They make contact, the 2 championship rivals, as they head through turn 4. I got the wrong Hass on the leaderboard there, but Zinedine Hajjaj on the inside of turn 6. He forces Nico right to the curb, but it's just about okay, I think, and Nico's going to have to stay behind, but Zinedine Hajjaj in so much trouble here. Here comes Nico down towards turn 9. Surely not. He has to back out of that one in these conditions. Maybe in the dry you can go for that, but not in the wet. And he has to stick behind. But Zinedine Hajjaj in all sorts of trouble right now as AGK retakes that fastest lap. I don't think so. Mattia Manga, he says. This is my race. And 6 seconds clear he is now, but so many moves happening, attempted moves, but some good defences being put up by a lot of drivers out there.
Indeed, and overtaking, of course, much more difficult in the wet here at this track, but a lot of these drivers still giving it a go. Nico tries again on Zinedine, but he's crossed up under braking, tries to recover the car. There was contact between them, and now they are side by side. 1 and 3 in the championship now, battling it out here in Austria on that run towards turn 4. Nico with a little bit more straight line speed as Zinedine starts derating, and through goes Nico. He manages to get the place that he failed to capture on the last lap, and Nico up 4 places for the Grand Prix. Prix, has incredible pace in these wet conditions. He's up another one, and what a crucial one it could be. I tell you what, after a disappointing qualifying session, OVR Nico, the race winner in Spa, is on the move once again. Now Geppo is next up as he tries to take on yet another Haas. OVR Nico continuing to move his way up the train, and it's look out the drivers in second, third and fourth, because this man who is out for a vengeance after the last race in China is firmly on the move and chasing down the leaders now.
He absolutely is, and well, Zinedine Hajjaj, he's going to be hoping that it turns dry later on in this race. We don't know if it will, of course, but it's still looking very much wet right now. I can't see any clouds dissipating in the sky, so I think these conditions are here to stay for at least a while. And if it's me, honestly, the rain looks like it's gotten heavier after the race start. It might just be me, but we'll see. Maybe we'll even see the wets later on, but OVR Nico charging after the other Haas now, but Gippo just about far enough ahead. Sam van Marsing still leads this long train of cars, and Vettel still there in P8 as well. He'll be wondering how on earth he went from challenging the championship leader for P5 to suddenly 8th place a couple of laps later, but he's at least still sticking with the cars ahead, and as are most of the cars behind. Mattia Manga hasn't made any more progress for quite some time as he heads through the latter part of the middle sector, and that's why he's got no front left end plate, so damage to the Red Bull, and Mattia Manga will be frustrated in that cockpit. It was a disappointing qualifying, and now the race isn't going to plan either.
Oh, contact Felix and Matisse. Matisse spears off into the wall and out of the race. I don't want to pass any further comment on that, but he is out, and a VSC is deployed. I don't think this will have much impact on the race. Bad luck to OVR Martins. He and Felix were going at it down there into turn 9, and in the end it worked against the Aston Martin, so he is out, and we're down to 15 left in the Grand Prix. The VSC just neutralising things. That restart could be very important though with so many drivers close together, but AGK is just going to sustain that lead. We'll see how long it does indeed last as we get a bit of a breather in the race. You mentioned the conditions. I haven't really seen much evolution in the conditions. I think it stayed pretty constant. Oh my goodness!
Oh,
Geppo! And both
goodness.
Haas's nearly run into the cars in front of them. Geppo and Zinedine managing to avoid contact there with Nico and NASCAR respectively. But oh my goodness, that would have been a heart and mouth moment for both of them. Just heading into turn 4, as certain drivers approach that delta on the entry to turn 4 a bit differently. Geppo and Zinedine, the Constructors' Championship leading duo, nearly had disaster for both of them. My goodness, what a moment that was. I said it was a breather, but we still have action even under the VSC.
I have no idea how both of them stayed facing the right direction there. They could have easily gone into the grass. As we've got green flags again, Felix, his day is going bad to worse as he gets a drive-through for speeding under VSC, but no one else with any penalties by the looks of things. And that is something that could come into play today as well. Track limits penalties as Nico now on the inside of Gippo on the run to turn 1, but sensibly backs out of that one, as does Sieb on Zinedine just behind. But I'm sure there'll be action heading down towards turn 3. Vessel right behind the Williams, and obviously Nico still right behind Gippo in front. Is he going to look to the outside of turn 3? He is. He's going to get the better traction as long as he doesn't get forced off. He's absolutely fine. Good racing from the pair, and Nico's got great traction here. Look at the overspeed he's got on the run to turn 4. They're side by side all the way through. Gippo trying to do his teammate a favour here, but Nico breaks late and sweeps all the way around the outside. What a lovely move from the V-Cub driver. He just about keeps it on circuit, and Gippo's just going to have to tip his hat to that one. There's nothing he could do about that. Nico into P4, and there's 2 cars to go between him and second place, although that was a big moment for him there on the exit of turn 7.
Yeah, fantastic charge from Nico, and the 2 Haas's, you would have to say, are among the drivers in this lead group that are struggling a bit more, as Geppo lets his teammate through, and bit dangerously as he actually decides to go into the pit lane instead. So Geppo, maybe that wasn't team orders, just a pit stop in the end, but yeah, managing to stay out of the way somewhat of the drivers, and I don't think any major contact did occur. So ASRT Geppo comes into the pits. I wonder what tyre it's going to be. Is he going to stick it out on the inters? Hard to imagine it would be full wet, so there's inters once again. So maybe just a pit stop because of too much tyre wear, I'm not sure, as they navigate turn 3 in that main race train, if you'd like. So yeah, not quite sure what's going on there as the two Kick Saubers swap places down there. You'd expect it to be generally a one-stop in any sort of conditions really at this track, but Geppo, by the looks of things, unless he's just going for a super undercut to try and distance the rest of the train, well, we'll see, but that's a pit stop at around about a third distance, which if it's going to stay in these conditions is rather early indeed.
It's quite a short, it's a decently short pit lane around here, so I do wonder if Gippo's going for a two-stop. I mean, we saw him make a wild strategy work in China last week, so why not go for it again? And, well, he's down to 14th, he's 18 seconds behind the rest of the field, but we'll see what he can do on those fresh inters. He'll have a lot more pace than everyone else, but is the two-stop going to be worth it? Can he gain that 8 extra pit stop worth of time, about 20 seconds? We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, that's going to be, I mean, it's going to be fun for him. He's going to have very easy tyres to drive on for the majority of the race, if that is what he's going for. A Sieb around the outside of Ruben before even turn 3 braking zone. So a good move on the straight there from the Williams, catching the Ferrari off guard. But yeah, fascinating call from Gippo, and I'll keep an eye on that time as PLX is going for a move on Ruben. He smells blood after that move. Down the inside of turn 4 he goes, he loses the rear, completely locks up as he goes in, but there's nothing Ruben can do on the outside. It's a lovely move from the F4 champion, and he's up to 8th place.
Yeah, fantastic move, and he's had a frustrating Grand Prix up to this point, stuck in that midfield, but on the move now and trying to pressure the cars in front from now on. I do wonder with Geppo if it's actually going to be a two-stop or whether it's just a very offset one-stop. We'll see how that's going to continue to unfold. We're getting towards half distance now very soon as we head on to lap 15 of the race, as NASCAR gets a great run through turn 10, but has to check up almost on the exit. He was too fast for his own good, and in the end, Sam Van Marsing lives another day as OVR Nico draws ever nearer to the two drivers in front, gets a really good run through turn 1 too. So we'll see what's going to happen now towards turn 3. NASCAR doesn't seem to have great straight line speed, and he hasn't been very confident on the brakes. Look at the closing speed of Nico to the inside of the hairpin, brakes very, very late, tries to bring the car under control and does so, and that's another fantastic move. OVR Nico, what a superstar drive it has been up to this point. Now he is with his teammate just like he was in China. The V-Carbs are showing up big time here in the Austrian Grand Prix. OVR Nico, just an absolute overtaking clinic, overtaking showcase, and he is putting the moves on the very best that PSF3 has to offer. This is absolutely brilliant drive as further back. Lars and Mattia Manga, two cars actually who have wing damage, fighting further back for P11 and 12, and Lars getting through Mattia Manga. What a frustrating evening it's turning out to be for the Italian. Still locked down there in position 12 now as that battle for P2 still so incredibly close, but what a drive it has been from OVR Nico. I mean, he's looked perhaps other than the absolutely class of his own AGK Racing. OVR Nico has taken advantage of all the other drivers, has been noticeably faster than everyone else pretty much in this train, and now he's gone essentially from the middle of the field up towards the front as the two V-Carbs now control the front of this group.
And here comes Nico again. He's using that overtake button. He's looking to the inside. Zinedine Hadjaj making a move on NASCAR as well as Nico sends it to the inside of his teammate at turn 3. They're going to both try and get the traction on the exit. And Sam Van Marsing gets it as he has done all race long. And Zinedine Hadjaj is now back in this after getting past the Alpine. He looks to the outside of Nico. Nico breaks late, nearly goes into his teammate. Goodness me, you could have been a hair's breadth between them. But Zinedine Hadjaj is fended off by Nico, who remains in P3, and he's still got his teammate ahead, but Sam Van Marsing defending beautifully at the moment. I think that was move of the race for me from Nico on NASCAR a lap ago, but he couldn't quite repeat it against Sam Van Marsing this time. And plenty of drivers behind will be watching this and wondering when it's all going to go wrong. NASCAR into the pits. Zinedine Hadjaj also in. A lot of drivers coming into the pits now. Where is Gippo? He is over 10 seconds ahead of Mateusz, who came in a few laps ago. This could be an outrageous call from Gippo. Maybe, I think Dak is actually more right than I was. I think it's more likely to be a one-stop, just very offset. He is going to have horrendous tyres at the end, but they're not going to be too bad comparison to everyone else. Here he goes down towards turn 1. Nico, meanwhile, on the inside of Sam Van Marsing again, nearly forced his teammate off the circuit. Vettel trying to make a move, and they're both going to get undercut massively fighting like this by all the drivers who come in. Gippo actually only a second ahead of NASCAR in the end, so he hasn't gained that much at all, so he might well regret that early stop. But Vettel right behind Nico now, thanks to all that battling from the V-Cubs, and they're going to lose so much time. Vettel loses the rear though through turn 7, just about keeps it, turn 6 rather, just about keeps it going. But Sieb right there behind as well as Nico, putting all the pressure on his team, and he just can't get past. Maybe Sam Van Marsing's coming in this lap. No, Nico comes in. Sam Van Marsing stays out. And I don't know if that's team orders, but if I was Sam Van Marsing, I would have gone in there. So interesting call from him as AGK stays out as well. But only a few cars left who haven't pitted.
Now let's see what the penalty is going to be for staying out that extra lap. Still more drivers yet to come in, of course, so let's see how this is going to unfold. 3 drivers in: Spyros, Nico, Vettel, now getting new fresh tyres on. Nico, how costly is this extra lap going to be potentially for the Belgian as he picks up the throttle pedal, heading towards that inside of the pit lane? Geppo leads the train now from NASCAR. Nico is going to emerge just behind PLX, just ahead of Zinedine, who had a tough outlap himself, losing out to PLX, who all of a sudden is right in the mix here. So what a pit stop phase it has been for the F4 champion. That said, he's got Nico trying to pound straight away the intake. There's contact from front wheel to rear wheel, and now Zinedine Hajjaj looks to take full advantage, flying to the outside towards turn 4 and getting the move done. Can Nico fight back? He's going to try it on the brakes. Zinedine rolls off the brakes on the end of the turn 4 to hold that possession. These guys are not holding anything back, but OVR Nico in the end, a tough move to the inside of turn 3 in the end, working fully against him, and after an incredible first stint with so many overtakes, after the pit stops, looks like he's going to have to do a lot of those overtakes again.
Yeah, it's back to square one for Nico after staying out for one more lap. Battling with his teammate has cost him big time. Sam Van Marsing into the pits as well as our race leader, so that just leaves Sieb and Lars van der Linden the only ones still yet to pit. But OVR Nico, it was a very late send on PLX. I think it was a late decision to go for it, and it hasn't ended up working out. Sam Van Marsing's going to be all the way at the back after leading this train the whole first stint. He now finds himself well over a second behind them. It's a disastrous decision from both V-Cubs to stay out one more lap. PLX on the inside of NASCAR, meanwhile, for turn 3. He's up to 5th place as he now is going to challenge Gippo for 4th. As NASCAR under pressure from the other Haas of Zinedine Hajjaj. Down the inside he goes, and the championship leader is up to 6th place. Can NASCAR following through? No, he can't. PLX fended off by Gippo as Nico gets through on the Alpine driver as well. NASCAR's lost so many positions. PLX and Gippo still going at it. The outside for PLX. He makes it stick. Incredible move from the Aston Martin. Oh my goodness me. He is up to 4th place, and Gippo now is going to be trying to hold off his teammate because they may be leading the Constructors' Championship, but Gippo is still well in the fight for the drivers as it stands.
What a pit phase it has been for EVE PLX. He has gone virtually from the back of this train up towards the front, and with Geppo behind on much older tyres, that could be a gap that he can create now. So EVE PLX now running in a net position too. Still 2 cars yet to come in to the pit stops. The 2 Haas's now are nose to tail. Geppo clearly holding them up now on the older tyres, and Zinedine Hajjaj up towards the outside. Watch towards Nico. Turn 3. He's got to be careful because Nico's got a great run too, and Zinedine Hajjaj can find himself boxed in here. Now on the outside, tries to outbrake his teammate, goes clean round the outside but onto the curb, and Geppo holds up for the time being. Now good traction though, good straight line speed for Zinedine. Nico does not know which side of the track to go, but locked behind the 2 Haas cars. Geppo on the inside of turn 4 there. Zinedine trying to hang it out there, and Nico again trying to poke his way in and go on the offensive. They're nearly 3 abreast. Nico has to yield. Zinedine has to yield 2 into turn 6 as he nearly runs into the back of his teammate. Geppo somehow manages to hold them back. Nico and Zinedine in their own proxy war behind them, but the big winner ultimately is the car who's well out in front of all these guys. EVE already. PLX is way clear after all that fighting. Again, what a last few laps the F4 champion has had.
Oh, it's been amazing. He's been stuck in the middle of that midfield for the whole first stint. And now he is free at the front with all these drivers battling behind. Gippo holding up everyone in the train behind him, as Nico and Zinedine Hajjaj having their fantastic battle as well. Nico's so good through turn 1. I think he's the best on the grid at turn 1 in these conditions. And now this is why he gets these runs to turn 3. He looks to the inside of both Hasses. He forced nearly onto the gravel. He breaks far too late, Nico. And he goes well wide of turn 3. He's going to lose several positions, as does Zinedine Hajjaj, because Vessel has gone past both of the Haas drivers. He's gone the inside, down towards turn 4. There's more battling behind us. Ruben gets involved. Vessel has to back out. It's a great late braking move around the outside for Gippo, but Vessel now has the traction on the exit. Nico's all the way to the back of the train. There's contact as they head through 6, but somehow Gippo stays ahead out of all of this, and there's contact between Zinedine and Ruben as well behind. Ruben finds his way on the inside of turn 7. Oh my goodness me, what a move this could be from the Ferrari driver around the outside of 8. There's damage to the front wing of Vessel as Ruben sweeps around the outside of turn 9. Vessel tries to hold it in with the damage, but there's nothing he can do, but Ruben loses the rear. No driver can keep it on the circuit at the moment. Gippo is still in front, and PLX has a 4-second gap, and everyone is still battling so hard, and Sam Van Marising's now in this as Nico's down to 11th.
I'll take over for you, Ghost, as now on to lap 22 of the race, as still this train runs virtually nose to tail. Sam Van Marising now trying to make up for that overcut, losing positions to the inside of NASCAR, who was running up the front 2 earlier. They were 2 and 3, now they're way down the field as Sam Van Marising squirms all over the road, can't quite find it, and now NASCAR to the outside of Zinedine Hajjaj. What on earth is happening as they head into turn number 4? The Frenchman holds firm over on the inside of turn 4. NASCAR looks for that switchback, but the rear tyres say no, and Zinedine hangs on to that up at the front. Vessel tried to finally dislodge Gippo from that space. He runs him out wide, and Gippo now has Ruben on the inside, the Ferrari up into 6th. Or is he? Gippo getting caught on the outside rear corner, drops 1, 2, 3, 4 possessions as there's contact with Nico and front wing damage off one of the cars. I didn't see which one it turned out to be in the end. What on earth is happening? Nico is the one with the damage after an incredible first stint. He is falling right down the field, so gutting for Nico. Gippo also having to come into the pits, barely gets it stopped in time. Disaster for multiple drivers. It is all kicked off in the last couple of laps. The red mist descending on the Red Bull ring, it must be said, as now Vessel is well clear of them. He has wing damage himself, but he's on his way as still they run it behind. Sam Van Marising to the inside, outbreaks himself and runs into Zinedine. He runs into Zinedine, and I think that's damage for the other V-Carb. Yes, it is. Sam Van Marising again, after defending brilliantly, beautifully through the first stint, now has damage on that V-Carb. The last couple of laps, it was relatively calm, just great racing out there, but the last couple of laps, things have gone a bit too far over the limit as Sam Van Marising runs wide at turn 4 and loses out to OVR NASCAR, who gets up into position number 7. Ghost, this train that was running practically in harmony, has shattered over the last couple of laps. So many drivers with damage, with misfortune, dropping all the way down the order. It's absolutely dramatic all the way through, and the complexion of this race, potentially the championship too, has changed to the nth degree. This race has been thrown completely on its head.
Nico's going to be absolutely gutted as Lars van der Linden is still staying out there. Is he going for a 0 stop? Surely not. He's going to lose so many positions. Yeah, Nico, he's done nothing wrong really. He's just been so unlucky with the positions he's got himself into. The one thing he did wrong was braking far too late for turn 3, but he hasn't taken anyone out as Mateusz now is on the inside of the V-Carb driver. He's going down towards turn 3. The Mercedes gets it stopped, but I think Nico's going to have the grip on the exit. The rain is definitely so much heavier than it was at the start.
It is, yeah.
I do wonder, we've already got 2 cars on wet tyres. Sam Van Marising is one of them, but everyone else staying out for now, but they're struggling so much more for traction on the exit of these corners, and it's no wonder with the rain lashing down like it is. PLX is a distant P2 right now. well, both from AGK and from the cars behind. He'll be absolutely delighted with how this race has gone, but it's far from over. We've still got 11.5 laps left to go, and the rain continues to lash down. When are the wets going to come into play? Are these inters eventually going to become too much to handle?
Sam Van Marsing up behind Geppo. It doesn't look like he's able to live with the Haas right now, so the Inter's still a strong tyre. There is still, of course, a drier part of the track near that racing line, so the Inters are still manageable for the moment, but getting increasingly trickier. You're absolutely right. The rain intensity has absolutely ramped up, and so that is going to make things so much more difficult on the circuit for now. In that battle, Zinedine Hajjaj closing on Ruben, nearly contact in a turn 3 as both cars squirm around for traction on the exit behind Sieben Mateusz, side by side, Williams and Mercedes, but the Mercedes far stronger on the exit in the end, seeing off that position. Sieben, of course, though, has much fresher tyres. He's going to try and use them on the brakes to the inside. Oh,
safety
turn
car.
number full safety car has come out as Felix has gone off at turn 1, lost an entire front wing, so a safety car for Debris. And now the question is, do you come in for wets? AGK certainly seems to be in that McLaren. So with the rain intensity being ramped up fully, it looks as though drivers are going to be replacing their green wall tyres for blue wall tyres.
Yeah, that's really neutralised things. And look who's gained from this. Lars van der Linden, who's stayed out since the start. He is going to get onto those wet tyres, but he is going to be so annoyed with himself for that penalty to his name. 3 seconds for track limits. He would be in such a good spot if not for that. Yeah, Inters for AGK. Is anyone going to buck that trend? PLX in. He's also going for Inters. Vessel comes in for a double stack with his teammate. He's had a great race so far, but he's replacing his wings, so that's going to cost him. Inters for him too. It looks like Inters for most of the grid, so they still don't think it's time for wets. I mean, Sam Van Marsing's on the wets at the moment. The Inters do still look like a strong tyre, like you said, Daka, but Sam Van Marsing in as well, so I wonder if he's going to go back onto the green tyres. I wonder, maybe the rain is going to get less heavy in these last 10 laps and the drivers know something we don't, or maybe it's just that none of them have the guts to go onto those wet tyres.
A couple of drivers have IRTC, who, again, another driver who'll be kicking himself with a time penalty, but having stayed out much longer than others on the intermediates in the first stint. Actually, the Sam Van Marsing, the drivers who were on wets have come in and replaced them with inters. So it seems as though, oh my goodness, Sam Van Marsing is all over the pit lane exit, manages to keep it alive. It looks as though when the track is run on and we have that drier line, it seems as though the drivers are confident enough that the intermediates, I don't know if rain gets much heavier than this in the F1 game, but it seems as though the drivers are confident with sticking it out on the intermediates and just living with it. So maybe the wet tyres will never provide that much grip on a track that's been run on so much on this game. It is a possibility, but yeah, the field will be bunched up, but IRTC taking advantage in the end of that overcut because he's got the fresher tyres and he's not losing much in terms of grip by staying out there. The question is, though, how much will that penalty affect him and how much of a difference will those 3 laps be for the drivers behind? But for a number of drivers, this has been making a far more difficult situation. I think PLX in particular, who was running a very clean P2, now coming under pressure and having to navigate a car on older tyres. So we'll see how he can get on, but I think AGK Racing, with the pace that he's shown into this race, if he keeps it error-free, it's hard not to see him just darting off into the distance like he did in the first stint.
Yeah, it really is, and you've got Seed behind him as well with those old tyres, so AGK in a great spot here, but we've seen in the past AGK struggle to make good on these opportunities. He's been at the front so many times this season and at the back end of last season in PSF3, and it's never ever resulted in an AGK victory, at least as far as I've been commentating. But today that could be when it changes, but this safety car has destroyed his 10-second gap, so who knows, maybe PLX will have a little more pace than Sam Van Marsing did in the first stint and might be able to challenge, or there could be a mistake as the rain comes down, although it does seem like it might just be me, Daka. It seems like it's a little lighter than it was a couple of minutes ago, but that might just be you know, because I've seen it for a while, so it looks less heavy than it is. But who knows? The drivers won't know too much either out there. They'll just know how the track feels. They know more than us in that respect. So yeah, really interesting last stint to come. Almost everyone on the same tyres, but there's been so many stories on the grid today, as we expected. The two V-Carbs, who were at one point in this race running second and third, down, well, they've put a 1 in front of both of those numbers, 12th and 13th. Right at the back, and they've got a huge amount of work to do. ASRT Gippo as well, who came in for that very early stop. He's down in 11th. Mattia Manga's up into the top 10, somehow in front of Nico in this race, but Zinedine Hajjaj in a great position still in P6. And, you know, this is the sort of race where you just got to do some damage control if you're the championship leader, and well, that's exactly what he's doing. His main rivals, almost all of them, are behind him. PLX is the only one who is in front at the moment, and well, with the 3-second penalties in front, Zinedine Hajjaj is only a net 2 positions behind him. So the championship leader still standing in good stead here, but like I said, with the trends of this season, Zinedine Hajjaj in multiple races so far has lost a big advantage right towards the end of a race when the pressure's on. So has he learnt from those mistakes? We'll see very shortly.
We shall see. We are coming up now to an 8-lap shootout with AGK Racing leading them along. IRTC with another great opportunity, of course, the race winner in the Brazilian Grand Prix, another wet race, or at least wet to dry race. The wet conditions clearly holding up all the way throughout the Grand Prix on this occasion. AGK is weaving along very aggressively, trying to keep as much temperature in those intermediates as he can. Of course, it is towards wets, we think, in terms of conditions, so these drivers are going to have to watch themselves as AGK attacks the entry to turn 10, and away he goes. He spins up the rear tyres, but the McLaren is on his way, as well as the rest of the grid, as we head on to lap 29 of the 36 laps of the Red Bull Ring. AGK leads IRTC. Can the rest of the grid live with AGK on this occasion? Sieb got a great run through turn 1 and is pressuring in the slipstream, heading up towards the hairpin at turn 3. He's got to watch for PLX though. PLX darts to the inside, heading into the hairpin. Can he get that one stopped? He makes the apex. Sieb struggles for traction on the outside, and AVE PLX with a critical move gets up into position 2 on the road this time. Ruben trying to make another spectacular move too in the Ferrari, but there's no way to go around the kick Sauber of Lars van der Linden. He holds P5. The rest of the grid seems to be holding station somewhat at the moment. Spyros and Sam van Marsing have swapped places. Sam van Marsing dropping back another possession now, down into 14th from second on the grid. A nightmare last stint really for the V-Carb driver out there, as Nico tries to make up a place too on Geppo, and the Geppo is hung out to dry on the outside and loses a couple of possessions too to Nico and to Spyros, so he runs out into possession number 13. Felix too making the move on Sam van Marsing, who now runs stone dead last on the race. We head on towards lap 30 with AGK leading him along, but look at EVE PLX. Now that he's got somewhat clean air, he is flying along so nicely, and AGK at the moment cannot distance the Aston Martin nor the Williams of Sieb. They are right in there and giving the pole setter something to think about.
Great move from Ruben on the inside of Sieb into turn 1, as Zinedine Hajjaj going for it as well. PLX though for the lead of this Grand Prix. We haven't seen anyone else lead this race, but PLX now does. Round the outside of turn 3, AGK is going to be wondering how on earth he is running in P2 in this race after an 11-second gap was wiped out by the safety car. PLX looks in fine form. Zinedine Hajjaj hangs Lars van der Linden out to dry on the outside of turn 4. They're going to keep going wheel to wheel down towards the next couple of corners, but Zinedine has that in the bag. Lars van der Linden with damage to his wing as well. Not sure when he picked that up, but Vessel trying to take advantage down the inside of turn 8. A risky move from the McLaren through turn 7 and 8. Now to turn 9. It's going to be the outside line. Surely he doesn't send it here. Lars van der Linden's got to back out. No, he doesn't. He sends it to the inside, forces Vessel off the circuit, but Vessel picks up a penalty, which I'm sure he will he will disagree within the stewards, but NASCAR now looking to the inside. There's a lot more track limits penalties appearing as we head into these last few laps. NASCAR on the inside of turn 1 of Lars van der Linden. The Kick Sauber driver losing so much time with that front wing damage. Mateusz and Mattia Manga getting involved as well. The Red Bull driver trying to do some damage control. Nico's in the mix too. It's 3 wide into turn 3. NASCAR on the inside. Nico and Mattia Manga battling as well. The Spyros loses the rear just behind. I'm going to hand over to Daka before I lose my voice.
I'd say the final 6 laps of the race. Look at this midfield battle. Cars all over the road. Look at NASCAR. Lunges into turn 4 and Lars van der Linden. Force him wide. And now Nico taking full advantage to the outside now. They're 3 abreast in a turn 6 of all places. OBR Nico around the outside of 2 cars. NASCAR has to yield. Drops right down the order. Lars fights back. Tries to reclaim the places he lost. He and Nico are side by side. Nico is forced off the circuit. Mattia Manga now in on the scene, trying to take advantage too. Nico does not yield and gets the upper hand on Lars, heading into the entry of turn 9, and Mattia trying in a turn 10 almost, backs out of it. There's more debris flying across the circuit as Spyros now tries to fend off Sam and NASCAR. Sam Van Marsing trying to do damage control himself to the inside as NASCAR up on the outside of turn 1 pinches him onto the curve. I'm going to have to turn my attention back towards the front as Seeb to the outside of AGK threads the eye of the needle with almost no space to work with. AGK hangs on in there in the McLaren as now they run parallel towards turn 6. Is this the initiative that PLX needed? Seeb out drags AGK. AGK breaks very, very late on the inside of turn 4. Keeps the nose in, but I don't think he's going to have anything to fight with. Seeb back up into P2. Gets the better of AGK Racing there, who does not have the same pace advantage he had earlier. The rain now easing back towards normal interim conditions. PLX now leads the way from Seeb and AGK, and I'm going to head back to Ghost before I lose my voice.
I think that's going to be a lot of that in these last few laps. Ruben now is sniffing a podium. Well, he's already in a net podium thanks to Seeb's penalty, but maybe he can get past AGK as well. AGK, this is the man who was leading this race by over 11 seconds, now sits P3 and looks under a lot of pressure. Vessel trying to put the championship leader under pressure behind for P5, but there's a penalty to that McLaren as Nico is trying to hold on as well. He's got damage of his own, does the VCARB driver, but he's into P8 and it will be P7 after Mateusz's penalty, but he's going to struggle with that front wing damage. Mattia Manga in the mix as well. He doesn't have damage on the Red Bull, so Nico could be under a lot of pressure. There's Lars van der Linden and Sam Van Marsing all over the circuit on the run to turn 3. Sam Van Marsing down the inside, and they're going to continue side by side again, but Lars van der Linden has to back out, and Sam Van Marsing ahead, but here comes the Kick Sauber again to the inside of turn 4. Sam Van Marsing cannot get rid of him. Lars van der Linden, despite the wing damage, despite everything, still battling on, and it may not be for points positions, but at this moment it's about pride for Van der Linden. NASCAR's looking in as well. He'll be wondering where on earth his race went wrong too. Same for the Haas of Gippo behind, but it's PLX who continues to lead from Seeb, from AGK, and Ruben there too. Zinedine Hajjaj 1.2 seconds back. Vessel right into the back of him as they head through turn 10, but can't quite get a move done down towards turn 1. Mateusz now setting the fastest lap, and PLX looks in a great spot with 3 laps to go.
He does, but he has not been able to shake off the drivers behind, and still with him RTC. We'll be glad he has that penalty. Here comes Ruben, tried to search for a net P2 at the moment. He's made so many great moves in this race, and he looks for one more on the pole setter. AGK Racing with 2.5 laps to go, but AGK gets good traction. Can he turn things around? The rain's dramatically easing there. The conditions are improving as the tyre temps will be spiking on these intermediates, but they will just about be able to manage them, I think, inside the last 3 laps with PLX leading. Seeb, AGK, then Zinedine, then Vessel, then Mateusz managing to escape the penalty of that damage of that 3-second penalty is Nico and Mattia Manga fighting on towards turn number 6. Mattia Manga is going to be hung out to dry on the outside. Looks for the switchback though towards turn 8. Fighting on, gets to the inside, goes in so hot, but manages to get it done. Great stuff from Mattia Manga. It's been a great damage limitation drive in his final stint. Gets in front of Nico and preserving his chances as best as he can as we head out to the final 2 laps of the race. Nico picks up a time penalty too, so his race now falling apart. We're into the final 2 laps. PLX leads, Sieb leads, AGK leads, Ruben. Zinedine and Vessel trying to get to them too. Further back in that battle, PLX is controlling this at the front. He's got plenty of battery to use as well. PLX, you'd have to say, if he can drive error-free, it doesn't look as though the drivers behind are going to be able to overhaul him.
Here comes Nico switching to the inside of turn 3 on Mattia Manga, but decides against it with that wing damage. Probably sensible from him. But Mattia Manga remains in P8. He's going to be looking to head off after Mathieusz. He needs another 6/10 to get that position on the Mercedes driver, and that's going to be his goal. It's been a great drive from Mattia Manga so far. He's been very patient. He hasn't done anything silly, and well, like you say, he's going to get some points from it by the looks of things. But Nico not leaving him alone despite the wing damage. It just shows how fast he has been in this race. It just hasn't gone to plan. He might even miss out on points entirely, Nico, from this race, as PLX heads us on to the final lap of this thrilling Austrian Grand Prix. AGK setting the fastest lap. I wonder if it'll stay. It probably will, with battles going on in this final lap. Here comes PLX through turn 1. Sieb's got the overspeed, but PLX has ERS to spare, and he's going to stay well in front of the Williams. AGK is going to try and make a move perhaps, but no, he sticks behind. He's too far back. So is Ruben in the Ferrari. Vessel and Zinedine Hajjaj fighting as well. Vessel trying to get the switchback on the championship leader, but it's fruitless with the penalty anyway. Mattia Manga staying ahead of Nico as well. Yellow flags for Sam van Marising, whose day goes from bad to worse. Vessel again on the inside of Zinedine Hajjaj, but he doesn't make the move, and PLX is heading through the last few corners to try and take this win here in Austria. A chaotic race. Sieb just behind AGK, trying to find everything he can, but he's just too far behind. Gippo losing time as well behind, but it looks like PLX is going to take it.
He is half a second clear. He just needs to hold his nerve through 2 final corners. He started this race in P11. He fought through. He had a brilliant run to the pit stop phases. He's finished 2nd and 3rd this season. He now completes the podium set with a brilliant win in Austria. AGK Racing, heartbreak after the safety car, finishes in P2, and a brilliant podium for CPI Ruben. A hard-charging drive. Zinedine Hajjaj with in a race he struggled with a good damage limitation, drive himself to 4th. Sieb and Fett will be ruining the penalty, then Vessel, Mathieusz. I don't think I have enough time to run through all the results. Mattia Manga 8th, Spyros, then Nico round out the points finishers. We'll clear up the rest of the results after that. EVE PLX, after, well, a brilliant qualifying in China, turned into a disastrous race. In the end, the opposite comes true, and again, a driver who was 3rd in Bahrain was 2nd in Brazil, after just narrowly losing out in that last fight with Sieb. And this time, he comes through in front of Sieb to the line and takes a fantastic race win from AGK Racing in 2nd place, then Ruben, then Zinedine Hajjaj. IRT Sieb does in the end gets the fastest lap of the race, which I believe he picked up on the final lap, but ultimately, yes, the penalty very, very costly for the Dutch driver. He comes in front of his compatriot Vessel, then Mathieusz in P7. Mattia Manga recovers to P8, then Spyros and Nico. What could have been for Nico a fantastic first half of the race, but a disastrous second half. After that, NASCAR, what a brilliant qualifying session, but a race again that came apart in the second half. Felix 1 had a difficult evening all the way through. The Lars van der Linden looked set with the strategy, but just with that damage too, didn't have the speed in the final stint. Then Sam van Marising, what could have been? Geppo, what could have been? And Matisse not seeing out the checkered flag in the end. What a race we have been treated to. It seems like PSF3 continues to top itself every single week. But yeah, PLX, I mean, you have to feel for AGK, given the lead that was wiped out by the safety car. But in equal measure, that drive from PLX was just outstanding.
Absolutely. I don't think driver of the day is too much trouble. Ruben has a shot as well, but PLX, just outrageous night for him. He looked down and out at one point in this race, and he's fought all the way back up. A great pit strategy, an amazing outlap as well. Lest we forget how much he gapped Zinedine Hajjaj and how important that turned out to be because of how close everyone was together. If PLX had been even half a second slower than he was on that outlap, then he would have lost possibly 2 places, and I think that race would have gone very, very differently. Yeah, what a drive. AGK once again misses out on the win somehow, some way. He just cannot seem to get that top step of the podium, but it's still a great drive from him, and in stark contrast to the complete disasters from pole position that we have seen. He has at least managed to get P2, but he will still nonetheless be disappointed, I'm sure. But EVE PLX now 11 points behind, I believe, in the championship from Zinedine Hajjaj, who through thick and thin is maintaining this championship lead somehow. Just everyone in the top positions in this championship just always seem to have bad races all at the same time, and Zinedine Hajjaj is all too happy to just maintain that lead despite not having outstanding races of his own ever since round 1 of this season. Yeah, he remains 11 points clear, I believe. I think it will be PLX in P2. But after that, it's going to be so many drivers on this grid, so close together in points. And, well, Hajjaj, I think, is going to be looking at the standings, wondering how he is that far ahead.
I know, of course, because, well, this was probably the first race this season where he didn't look to have outstanding pace and really just was clinical and stayed in it. He didn't have the smoothest run himself, but yeah, has just managed to keep the championship contenders at arm's length for yet another race. But yeah, PLX, I'm with you, he will be at second in the standings, 11 points back, and well, after missing the third round of the season in Belgium, and again, after an incredible, I really mean it, incredible pole position lap in China, having the race that he had and finishing outside of the points, to come through and take a race win from down there in P11 on the grid. I tell you what, wherever he ends in the championship this season, I think this is a drive that we will certainly be looking back on as a pivotal moment for his season. And just like we saw really from Tom last season, drivers coming up champions in lower tiers and immediately making that impact up in the big leagues here in PSF3. But PLX has moved right up into the championship fight. He will in second in the championship, barring any Stewards reports, but I didn't see anything untoward from himself. So we'll see about that later on. But yeah, another incredible race in the books. I actually think the race benefited from the wet conditions. There'll be a lot of wheel-to-wheel racing it would have been a lot of wheel-to-wheel racing in the dry, but it's hard to imagine a race with that many narrative changes happening in the dry. That was such a stunning race, and we look forward now. Amazingly, Ghost, we're already more than halfway through the season, and it's Silverstone next up. And speaking of rain, that's another track where you can very often see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we might be setting a new PSGL record for the number of races in a season that have seen rain. Can we make it 8 out of 9, I wonder? Yeah, I mean, what a Grand Prix, what a drive from many drivers, and so unlucky for so many more. Once again, Zinedine Hajjaj, I think it has to be commended how no matter the adversities he's faced this season, like only the first race has gone to plan for him this season. He was very, very strong in Bahrain and fully deserved the victory. But ever since then, he's looked like he's had the pace to win a race. Up until maybe last week in China, he didn't. And obviously today, but he's been at the front for both of them. But certainly, ever since Bahrain, he's had many. I mean, he's had a few mistakes towards the end of races. He's had so many drivers around him, and other drivers dropping like flies, and he remains in the top 5 or thereabouts. So he has to be commended for that. He's definitely the most consistent driver at the moment. There's a lot of inconsistency going on, and he's the only one who's a constant presence in the top 5 so far this season. So for that, he has to be commended. But can he win the championship continuing to do that if for example, PLX goes on a big run of big results. Who knows? But I'm sure Hajjaj will get up to speed, and we know he's clearly not the biggest fan of wet conditions as well. So as soon as we come back to normality with dry races, it might come back towards the front again. But who knows?
Who knows, indeed. And, well, that also, because it makes 5 winners in 5 races, we haven't really seen a consistent presence other than him at the front of the field. He's, I can say with absolute certainty, is the only driver to finish in the top 5 in every race this season. In fact, he is by a distance the most consistent driver in the tier, and that's what's led to him having that championship lead. And he's in that position now where it's only really, if he keeps doing what he's doing, it's only really a huge run of form from another driver that's going to be able to overhaul him. So we'll see what happens there. PLX, in all of his point scoring races, he's been on the podium. So he's clearly got that top end performance as well, no matter where he starts on the grid either, as we've seen. Yeah, he's going to need to try and get more of those results together. He looks like the biggest threat for the moment in the championship, but who knows how it could evolve. But that is what remains to be seen in the last 4 rounds of PSF 3 on this game are to come. Silverstone, of course, is the next round, track that actually has quite a lot of similarities to Austria, but of course has its own character. It is one of the most historic tracks in all of Formula 1, and we'll see what it brings us in the next race we have here in PSGL Season 39 PSF3. But I think that's going to just about do it for tonight. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Thank you to the drivers for putting on a great show. Thank you to PSGL. Thank you to GT Omega for sponsoring PSGL. And of course, thank you to Ghost for being alongside me. Always a pleasure, and especially if it's another race like that. PSF3 has been a banger throughout this season. We'll see what the second half of Season 39 is going to bring. But for myself and Ghost, it is going to be goodbye for now. And until next time, we'll see you later.